AT&T believes that your phone is part of what makes you, you. So we understand why you're holding it as you eat those cheesy snacks on the go, while you listen to your favorite podcast on the subway, or when you call your best childhood friend from your favorite concert. Nothing should come between you and your connectivity. AT&T 5G is fast, reliable, and secure, and it keeps you connected to family, friends, fun, everything you care about. You'll enjoy fast speeds while you download apps, share your favorite videos, or get your game on. We know you don't let that phone out of sight, much less your grip. But no matter, this is a no-judgment zone. AT&T wants to ensure you can stay connected to what means most to you, so you can prioritize yourself. Requires compatible plan and device. Coverage not available everywhere. Learn more at att.com/5G for you.
It's time. Time to get credit for the work you've done. Time to get the recognition you deserve. With Purdue Global, you can move forward in your career, for your family, and for yourself. You're worth the investment in yourself to earn a degree you're proud of, a degree that employers will respect. Purdue's online university is designed to support working adults like you who know it's never too late to accomplish your goals. It's never too late to make a comeback. It's time to start yours today at purdueglobal.edu.
Have you heard about Vyvgart, F-Gard Tegamod Alpha F-Cab? Ask your neurologist if Vyvgart could be right for you and learn more at vyvgart.com/learn. That's VYVGART.com/learn. Brought to you by argenx.
This is the Jabberjaw Podcast Network.
Hello, this is Ray Harkins, and you are listening to the podcast 100 Words or Less. If this intro sounds different, it's because I'm recording it in my car. And it's not because I am lacking in time or professionalism, I think that's a word, but it's because I want to capture an absolutely true emotion that I am feeling currently. So, well, first of all, the guest this week is Cameron Miller. He is a vocalist for a band called Seizures, and I've become very friendly with him over the past, I would say, year and a half or so, solely through the podcast. I was aware of him previously, and we existed in the same scene, so to speak, but we had never met and connected and spoke to one another. I had an unbelievable conversation with him that I captured, and because he has a very crazy life story that has completely influenced the art that he creates, and I was blown away that I was able to have this discussion with him and talk very frankly about depression, coming out of it, and everything else that revolves around it. So I really appreciate Cameron being as open and honest as he was with this, because he was very deliberate in wanting to come on my show to express these feelings, because, that was an important part of his process. So I was very, very glad that we had this discussion. But more on him and the interview in a minute. But so I am leaving Chain Reaction here in Southern California after playing a benefit show for the band The Ghost Inside. For most of you, have some idea that I sang in a band called Taken, and we existed till about 2004 and sporadically do shows here and there. But we got asked to play this benefit show with Bleeding Through, A Dying Dream, which was basically all of The Ghost Inside, with the exception of a few members before they changed their name, and Runaway Kids, and then a band called Oblige. And it's like I said, I wanted to capture this raw emotion, and I hope I'm not being too hyperbolic or full of cliches, but it was magical for a multitude of reasons. One of them being, our show was good. We played okay. The crowd looked at us like, we were strange people, because realistically the sound that Taken embodies is not necessarily the most crowd-friendly sound. We're melodic hardcore with, 5.5 minute songs. Not exactly the mosh-inducing or circle pit rearing band. And we get that. We totally understand that. So we don't expect crowds to go nuts to us. But when they do, it's spectacular. But I digress. The show was fun. I had fun. It was a emotional purging of some feelings I've been having. But the most important facts are that I just love music, and I love this community that I exist in. Because I don't know if you've been paying attention to what's been happening with the Ghost Inside, but long story short, were in a horrific bus accident. Many of the members suffered some horrible, horrible injuries and are on a very, very long and difficult road to recovery. These are guys that have lost limbs and also broken bones that I can't even imagine what you would have to do to break them. So we raised a lot of money because this was a 2-night event. Actually, Cameron's band Seizures played the first night. But anyways, I'm very long-winded and I apologize. But long story short, the feelings that I got of everybody surrounding this band and contributing not only financially, but emotionally, physically, it's a very special feeling. It's exactly why this stuff that we're all into, this sort of outsider art and this independent subculture, is the fiber of my being. It gives me everything that I am and I need, because if I didn't have this, I mean, I don't even know where I would kind of come up with my morals and values. And of course, I have my religion and I have all these other things that obviously play a part in this. But so many ethics and human beings that I know are all directly correlated and linked to this independent music scene. Whether or not they still actively contribute, it doesn't necessarily matter to me. It's the fact that the connections are still there. And tonight just so solidified that in my head, that all the decisions that I've made and the long sleepless nights, playing on tour and never making money and all these things that would be considered a quote-unquote sacrifice for most people, I don't view them as such. I've told people recently this. The illustration that I like to use is basically, I got a backpack and I'm filling it with life experiences and human beings and relationships and all this stuff. And that's exactly what this music scene has contributed heavily to my backpack. So anyways, let's try to ramp this down and lead into the interview with Cameron. So visit the show's website at 100wordspodcast.com. Drop me an email, 100wordspodcast@gmail.com. And I'll let Cameron tell his story. We sat outside on a beautiful sunny afternoon in Southern California at a Starbucks, and I was glad it didn't feel awkward that we were just sitting there with microphones, and no one stared at us. So mission was successful. So here's my discussion with Cameron, and I will talk to you after the show's over.
I mean, it just blows my mind, too, that there's still a market for it. But, I mean, I guess there always will be. If there's a lack of venues and there's always going to be more bands that are willing to, play and pay these shows.
Yeah.
I think the worst example that I remember of the pay-to-play stuff was when the Whiskey, this was, early 2000s.
Oh, God. Yeah.
And Converge played there. And it was... gosh, I can't remember who else played the show. But, I mean, it was an unbelievable show.
Yeah.
And it was they even, I think Hatebreed was recording out here. But basically, Converge did a Hatebreed cover with Jamie singing. And it was just, I
think I heard about that.
It was unbelievable. And they're like, what's, no one can top that.
Yeah.
We're good. That, the night is over.
Yeah.
They had a band playing after Converge, a pay-to-play band.
Oh, that sounds like stand-up comedy. It's just like...
And it's I knew a kid playing in that final band, and he was like, "Can you please stay?" And I was like, "My heart is breaking into a million pieces. Of course I'll stay." And so it's they got set up so fast, and we're trying to get just "Hey everybody, come on, stay here," as everybody is leaving. And it was a song into it, there was maybe 5 people there, and it's just and you could tell that they were billed, when they got put on the show, "Hey, do you want to play with Converge?"
Oh, man. Do you remember what band it was?
I really can't remember. Because, I mean, it wasn't anybody it was someone I went to like Orange Coast College with. It was just like a
okay.
kid I knew in one of my classes, and it just happened to be that he played aggressive music too. But
Oh man,
what was your
those days.
what is the most, I guess, kind of like silly show scenario that you were put in where it was like it didn't have to be like a pay to play show, but it was just kind of like, oh, we have to do this thing this doesn't seem right, but I guess we'll have to do it.
I don't want to name any names.
No
but,
need to.
We played this charity show probably like 5 years ago now.
Okay.
And I don't remember what. I think it was for like a women's shelter, and it took place out in Rancho Cucamonga, and just the IE. I think maybe it was I don't know. I don't remember. But we played doing it for a friend. He told us that there was going to be a really big headlining band from Orange County.
Sure.
Who I'm friends with, and that was bait enough for me to say, yeah, of course we'll do it. And when the flyer got posted, we were playing with a bunch of deathcore bands.
Yeah, so stuff you fit in real well with.
Yeah. Stuff I've never been familiar. So I just said, man, I mean, it's for a good cause, and for us to just drop a show.
Yeah, you'd feel bad.
And plus, the guy was telling us, he's like, no, it's going to be awesome. You're going to get a different crowd, and that I've always liked that,
Right.
Why
You'll be
not?
playing in front of people that have never heard your band.
Yeah.
Right.
And we got there, and we were told that we were going to be going on second to last with the headliner, who never ended up confirming. So we got there. I think two of us got there at 7 o'clock, and then 15 minutes later, the cool guy I knew turned into the pay-to-play,
promoter. Yeah.
Yeah, just came over to me and said, all right, you guys go on in 30 minutes. I'm like, the rest of our guys aren't here yet. We can't. And then he said, oh, I told you this time. I said, no, I have your text message right here. And he was trying to deny it while I'm showing him physical proof in his face. It turned to this whole thing where he made a fuss about it. Ended up becoming just a story amongst other promoters that we're unreliable and that we don't do as we say.
Sure.
And we had to kind of prove that to not be the case after a while.
Yeah.
He was trying to just, no, don't book them. They show up late. They don't care.
Oh, so he was trying to smear your name. I thought you were saying his reputation started to precede him, but he was trying to be like, no, these guys are terrible to deal with. They don't live up to their end of the bargain.
I mean, the show actually went great for what it was. In the venue, it was our first time with our then new drummer. Mm-hmm. So the whole thing was just going to be an experiment.
Right.
See how the night was going to go. It went well, though. But that was probably the strangest beside... You know what? Have you ever heard of the Can in Garden Grove?
No. Can.
Oh, this is way better. I'm just remembering this. So this band, there's some band beef going on in Orange County with us because we were friends with another band who called out this kind of tough guy hardcore band for saying stuff on stage.
Okay.
We got lumped in, and they thought it was us that called them out. So they were hitting us up on MySpace, saying how they're going to come to all of our shows from now on and unplug our gear, not let us play. And so we were just like, we were intimidated. We had only been a band for, I think, like 6 months.
Sure.
And we were like, fuck, dude. Like,
you're like,
we're starting out now.
We're done. Our career's over.
Yeah, and these guys are big, too, and like face tattoos and just intimidating for us. And we... I don't remember exactly how it went, but somehow they said, all right, like, let's squash this and play a show together. So they booked a show with us, and it was at this pay-to-play bar, and we didn't know, never heard of it.
Right.
It's half like Japanese restaurant with
perfect.
A huge stage with big flyers when we get there saying former member of Danzig, playing big night, those kind of flyers. Just
right.
Kind of the...
Yeah, like the total like C rate, like this is what people play when you're on your last leg of performing live.
Yeah, so we show up and we're just shaking our heads, just this is so bad. Walk up, tell the guy at the front door, who's this big looking guy, and we're just, hey, we're the first band playing. He's like, all right, where's your pay or where's your money? We told them we were never told that this was going to be a pay to play show. he started cussing me out, got in my face, started pushing me back almost to where I was like, am I going to have to fight this guy or, push him off of me?
Right.
And then the other band comes up and they're like, yo, chill out. These guys are with us. They're playing. We didn't tell them. And then they got and fought over it. He said, all right, fine. You guys have to play now. Or if you're willing to headline, I can get you opening for old member of Queens of the Stone Age in a month. And so I said, no, we'll play right now. There was this family, a father, like a mom, dad, and 2 little kids, like toddlers, eating dinner.
Oh.
And we're about to set up and play.
Just punishing music, right?
Yeah, and there's this starry backdrop and a huge stage, probably like 6 feet off the floor, and a sound guy who was wearing a Bless the Fall shirt, but he was like missing teeth, and he's about 60 years old, and
looks like a thrift store find.
Yeah, and it was like he was telling us how he knew Iggy Pop, and it was so bad to where the other band who told us this was the show we were going to put things aside with,
sure,
they told us that, yeah, we'll come in, and they never watched us. So we played to a friend, the sound guy, this family who was just
eating dinner,
so scared. It was like they were terrified. They've never heard anything like it. And the guy who was just crossed arms in the corner, who wanted the money from us, just pissed off, kept walking in and out and just shaking his head, looking like he wanted to spit at us. And
oh man,
our guitarist ended up sitting down on the stage, and I ended up just doing whatever, and
sure,
we just cut it short, obviously. But
that'd be amazing. You guys play for 2 hours.
Oh god, that was one of the most just defeating. It was I don't know if yeah, but we put all beef aside, never saw those guys again. They broke up 2 weeks later. So long story short.
Right. Moral of the story is
beef
can be squashed, and it goes away. It goes away just as quickly as it comes on.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think those sort of stories are so perfect because obviously there are so many people that when you start a band, you obviously aren't thinking of the bad shows you'll play. You're just thinking of oh wow, that'd be great if we got to play with one band that's good, and we get to do we get to record a demo, or when did you in your head when did you first start kind of having a vision of wanting to play in a band, or was it just purely accidental that you played?
It's so weird because I've always wanted to.
Okay.
Ever since I was, I don't remember exactly how old, but I even started a band in 4th grade with my friend, and it was me on bass and him on drums.
Okay.
I didn't do anything, and we were called the Junkyard Heroes.
It's an incredible name.
I don't know where we got it from, but it was skate punk. It was mid-90s, I think.
Sure.
So it was, I didn't know how to play bass.
Right. That doesn't matter.
I just hit things, and he didn't know how to play drums. So that, ever since then, and then when I started going to shows and when I started seeing stuff like that, I had a friends band in Fountain Valley, actually, who I just became friends with through mutual friends, and this is early 2000s, and they were called Miss Leota, and they were a metalcore band.
Okay.
And live they acted like Dillinger, Every Time I Die, crazy stage antics, and
sure,
running around the whole venue wireless and being crazy, and they would always give me the microphone. That's when I started singing though.
Oh, they would give you to sing along, and you would...
Yeah,
okay.
And then eventually they were you should just sing a song one night with us, and that's how I kind of got it going.
Right.
But
because you do, you because I know you obviously are a shy person, and so it's the idea of getting up there in front of people and doing that. Did you ever have that, any sort of stage fright?
In a way, it depends, because it depends what my setting is. If my mood goes up, then my all shyness and everything goes away. But if I don't know, it just depends. I was starting in skateboarding and competing like that. I had stage fright with. I couldn't do competitions.
I was about to say, it's people watching you there. You definitely couldn't perform if there was I guess, pressure or people watching you.
Yeah, it was always tough for me, but I guess it's just when it's dark, and I don't know, I just got the hang of it, and
You can kind of blend in a way.
Yeah, to where if I'm going crazy and it's loud, then it doesn't matter.
It fades right. It fades away.
Yeah, but no, I never wanted to be kind of the front man of something. I've always been like, no, I'll pick something else up and do it. But I don't know what made me. I guess because I found that I had a voice, or people were saying that I sounded good when I did sing with the other friends' bands and fill in here and there, that I should just do it. And
right. Did you immediately gravitated towards like guitar and bass and that sort of stuff just because you didn't have that desire to sing?
Yeah, well, I mean, I took guitar lessons. I took piano lessons when I was a kid. I never really followed up with it because skateboarding was always more like prominent and took over everything in my life. So I didn't have any time to just sit down and be slow and focus on stuff and actually take the time to learn when I really wanted to be outside going fast and doing crazy, dangerous stuff. So
what was the rush? I guess the connection behind that. I mean, obviously, there's, like you said, the sort of the restlessness that you feel when you're younger, and the aggressive nature of skateboarding. Was it that kind of like tickled your itch for skateboarding?
I think so. I don't know what it was. I had these older neighbors when I was about 4 or 5 years old, and they got me into skateboarding, and just they were blasting like on a boombox outside on the curb, and I got a skateboard for Christmas after I showed some interest in it. And I'm gonna be 28 in July, so it's been ever since then.
Right.
So, I mean, I've just I don't know what it is. I think it's just always been cool.
Were you hyper as a kid? Like, because usually there is that sort of like this outdoor activity could be good for Cameron because it will get some of his restlessness or energy out.
I tried all sports too. Like I did baseball. I come from like a baseball family, so my dad played baseball in high school and was one of the top pitchers for Corona Del Mar High School, and then
he had pro aspirations, or at least like college. And
he had an injury though that held him back from doing that.
Got it.
I was raised playing all team sports, and I hated it, like soccer and everything. Like I appreciate them now, but when I was younger, it was just the organization, having to rely on other people when I know I can control a skateboard and do it on my own. And I think that's what attracted me to it.
Interesting. So the idea of you, like the control factor, where it was like it all kind of relied on you to guide that thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to like I gotta worry about what shortstop's doing.
Yeah.
And
I was outfield, so.
Oh yeah.
And then what was funny in Little League is that I was always out in the outfield, and I would have friends skating by the dugouts, and I became so disinterested, or just I didn't want to be there.
Right.
And what would happen is, while we were up to bat, I would sneak out of the dugout and I'd be skating while the game would be going on. My dad would always have to come and stop me. So.
I was going to say, your coaches must have loved you too.
God. Yeah, I remember everyone on the team, except maybe 2 or 3 people I actually was friends with, would always just say, "Oh man, Miller, what the fuck are you doing?" And getting pissed off at me, and we're in like 4th, 3rd grade. And
sure.
I always used to laugh because I'm like, this isn't real, like just...
This isn't the major leagues.
Yeah, I used to just make fun of. Yeah, and I don't know.
Right, just used to be sarcastic towards it.
Yeah. I mean, I was watching those, skate videos back then too, with all the bad words and crazy stuff in them. And
sure.
So I felt like I always felt like I was with kids who were just too nice. And
did you feel like, I guess, kind of you were let into a secret world that obviously they didn't know about, and it was like a more adult world that you're like, what are you doing this kid baseball stuff for?
Yeah, I mean, like I was always friends and kind of hung with older neighbors, so most of my friends had like 7-8 years on me. Yeah. And I guess it was like I just couldn't relate with the two worlds.
Your own peers.
Unless it was like about, like kid stuff like Star Wars or James Bond, whatever was going on when I was a little kid. But,
Sure. But then, you were never able to identify with your peer group because it was like, well, all my older friends are into way cooler stuff.
Yeah. That was my childhood.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then you as you started to get through like high school and start to kind of in certain respects, be able to control the way that you express yourself, at least, as far as like what you were into, and being able to be like, all right, I'm not going to go out for sports. I'm going to solely focus on skateboarding. Did you find your identity and feelings like changing as they must do in high school?
My dad, I think he really wanted me to stay in sports, and he told me if I played like a sport for high school that he would get me a car or help me out with one.
Okay.
And so I ended up playing freshman football, and I don't think I played maybe 30 seconds of one game.
Sure.
But I just showed no interest, and I was over it after the conditioning. And when I was pushing myself in practices and doing all like the Hell Week stuff, and somebody on the team couldn't keep up, and then you'd have to suffer for it and go back and do everything, I hated that idea. It never made sense to me. So I just kept fighting back and ended up faking an injury. And they kept me.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the injury you faked?
I just faked that I messed up my ankle because I was getting hit hard in practice. And I was one day I got hit in practice, and I couldn't skate that weekend because of it. And
must have been so pissed.
Yeah, I was livid. And I was just like, fuck this. I don't even care about the sport. I don't watch it on TV. I don't know I can't even name all the teams. I don't even know who are the current pros at the moment.
Right.
Why am I doing this? And I didn't care about the car at that point anymore, too. I ended up being the coach's assistant. They kicked off all the kids who had real injuries, who couldn't play anymore. I was the coach's assistant. I was able to get out of PE, and then he finally just said, yeah, I can't have you doing this anymore, so you're going to go into the regular PE classes. But
yeah,
it was when I did that, I always kind of hung out with all the different kind of groups of people at school and everything, but in high school and growing up in that, I guess my identity was always up for question, and what I wanted to be, or who I wanted to
who you wanted to align yourself with. It seems like there was obviously, and I know most kids feel this way, like there's always an obstacle in the way, whether it's like parents, school, whatever, all these things that are in your way of like the pursuit of what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Even if it's like a dumb pursuit, it doesn't matter. It's like, you're like, but I want to do that thing.
Yeah.
Did you, and I know that, because you've been very open, especially from a lyrical perspective, of obviously battling depression in high school, like a lot of people, to varying degrees, obviously have. But I know your case was much more severe. So, like, when did that sort of like mental effect start to, did you recognize that in your own life?
I think it was just when I started struggling with school, and
were you a good student prior to that?
I've always been interested, and I've always loved learning, and it was kind of just, I guess, the shift of when you're growing up and when you're that age, everything's changing, and you're becoming this new person, and you're starting to find your place in the world, I guess.
Sure.
And
so, like in elementary school, were you getting like A's and B's and stuff like that?
Not always. I mean, it was like I cared, but it wasn't caring enough to be perfect.
Sure.
So I would just kind of get by with C's and B's.
Okay.
But I was diagnosed with ADD when I was younger. So, I had prescriptions for that, and it helped when I got on Adderall a little bit in high school, and that helped me, but it kind of made me a little numb. But I guess it was when I started just not caring. I started experiencing relationships and stuff, and then diving deep into certain bands and records and giving me that extra perspective on things. And I don't really know how that starts or what really happens, but I guess it had to have been like early freshman year when I noticed, because I was really happy and really I just remember 8th grade with my friends being just this blast.
Sure.
So, just being so much fun. But yeah, it was early high school when I noticed it starting to kind of come in.
To not use a cliche, but it's like the world turns gray, where it's just like you don't seem to have the highs and lows. It just kind of all like levels out.
It was more for me. It was more lows, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But it was leveled out, but it was also kind of questioning everything and not being able to find any positive to anything, or just it was like a friend would invite me out, and they would say, "Oh, let's go do this or tonight, whatever," and I'd just be I remember this one instance, and I looked at my couch and I said, "What's the point? In 3 hours, I'm going to be sitting right there anyways." Just kind of like, what's the point of anything? And that's kind of how it was. It was becoming very bleak and just.
That was like your common response for everything.
Yeah, and I could save my money or whatever cash I've been saving this week and go do something else, or I didn't see any point to going out, and I kind of had a little like social anxiety. I was kind of insecure about some stuff, and just I pushed back a lot.
Right. Yeah, people trying to include you, but then you were just like, nah, but that's dumb. I don't need to do that.
Yeah, but I never vocalized it. I hit it really well. Like I've always been kind of one to not. It wasn't until recently that I'd consider myself an open book about things.
Right.
So
yeah, before you would be able to. Well, I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with your age too. Like you don't. It's never a cool thing to be vulnerable in high school.
Yeah.
You have to put up like 17 different layers of armor in order to feel like you can navigate through a day.
Yeah.
But then the concept of you doing that, obviously not only with like your close friends, but I mean your family, and like you were just like slowly isolating yourself.
Yeah. I was getting in trouble. I mean, I was still skateboarding a lot, and that's when I started going to shows and kind of hanging out with some like bad kids, I guess you could say.
Sure.
Who were getting a ton of trouble, and I started just kind of following around with it.
Like what sort of trouble are we talking about? Are we talking about like, just general like sort of teenage vandalism, or were you guys like, shoplifting and doing other?
There was some shoplifting, there was some vandalism, the whole, someone's talking shit, so we got to go fight them.
Got it.
And then I'd get in a few fights, and that would bum me out too.
Right.
I hated it, but
because you just felt like you were going along.
Yeah, it was like, this isn't my fight, and I felt like I was going to get arrested every day for something stupid, and I kind of hung out with people I didn't really like, but it was, hey, we're going to go do this later, so this is going to be worth it, or they're the ride to this, or whatever it is.
Sure.
We're going to go do, but yeah, yeah.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Let me tell you, the holidays are awesome. They've got some great moments, whether it's spending time with friends and family, gift giving, all of the things. I personally love Christmas lights. Like, I can't wait to put them up. It just makes me feel warm inside. But there are moments where it's like, man, it's overwhelming, or I'm feeling really alone or sad. All of the things that just, can kind of compound it during the holidays. That is why you need to take a beat and maybe take that moment for yourself. Give the gift of time to yourself. And that's honestly why I love dipping into therapy. That's why I also love working with BetterHelp, because they make finding a therapist online so dang easy. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. Like I said, it's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire, and then you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for any reason at no additional charge. Please, in this season of giving, give to yourself as well with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Ray to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Ray for 10% off your first month. Take care of yourself, please.
We all agree that reducing carbon emissions is a good thing. And once again, Toyota is leading the way.
Yeah, we hear a lot about fully electric vehicles, and Toyota, they got them with more on the way, I'm telling you.
We also know a BEV is not for everyone, whether it's because of cost, range, or if you're like Ray and you're going to start freaking out, oh no, I can't find a charging station when that battery gets real low.
Yeah, plus the raw materials used to manufacture batteries are limited. Enter Beyond Zero. So Toyota's vision for a carbon-neutral future in vehicles and in manufacturing plants, too. In the years ahead, trust me, it's happening, baby. The materials used to make just one long-range battery for an EV could be used to make batteries for 6 plug-in hybrids or 90 gas-electric hybrids.
That's why Toyota's position today is electrified, diversified, empowering you to choose how to reduce your own carbon footprint. with the vehicle that's right for you, a hybrid, plug-in hybrid, or battery EV.
So shop, learn more, or get details at toyota.com/beyond zero. Toyota, let's go places.
Vroom, vroom.
Hello there, this is Malcolm Gladwell, host of Revisionist History. eBay Motors is here for the ride. You saw the potential. Through some elbow grease, fresh installs, and a whole lot of love, you transformed 100,000 miles and a body full of rust into a drive entirely its own. Look to your left, look to your right. No one's got a ride like this. There's nothing else that sounds like, feels like, or looks like the set of wheels in your garage. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly, so there's no limit to how far you can take it. Brake kits, turbochargers, engines, exhaust kits, roof racks, LED headlights, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Greetings and salutations, my fine metal friends. I am Chuck.
And I'm Godless.
And we are the Metal Sucks Podcast, a sincere yet snarky look at the metal world today.
Featuring interviews with the biggest names in metal.
Like maybe Kirk Hammett from Metallica.
That's probably the most unusual question I've been asked today.
Dan Tompkins from Tesseract.
It's been a really good interview, by the way, guys. Probably one of the best I've done so far, and I've done loads at the minute. So
even Chris Adler from Lamb of God subscribes to this podcast.
I was serious earlier. I listened to the podcast, I subscribed to it, and it's cool to be on it.
Not only do we have some of the biggest names in metal on our podcast, but we also, have some of the best discussion topics that we like to agree on.
No, we don't. We don't agree on anything. Are you kidding?
We can agree that everybody needs to subscribe to this podcast on Stitcher, iTunes, or catch this every single Monday at metalsucks.net, the Metal Sucks Podcast.
That was it. And then as you started to see it all kind of come to a head, where it's like you said, you were experiencing lows where you just didn't want to go anywhere, didn't want to interact with anybody. But like you said, the stuff that you were kind of putting in your head as well, as far as like records and things that obviously really embrace the idea of depression and are trying to offer comfort within that idea of being depressed. That's the stuff that you were like readily consuming?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a lot of dark stuff. I mean, I was listening to everything. I mean, that's when I was really finding all my favorite music, and it was mostly just I would have to say it's just brain chemistry for whatever. I had a lack of I guess you could say just the antidepressants I was taking. They weren't working. The school stuff, just the repetition, people saying things. Just I would have like a meeting with a guidance counselor, and they would just kind of brush it off when I would show an interest in something, and saying, "Nah, you're better off doing this because this will make more money," or just everything started not making sense.
Sure.
Me. So
you felt helpless.
Yeah, and then when you're young and you're going through your first like relationships, or you're having your first experiences with just friendships falling apart or drifting apart from each other, and I'm getting into one thing, they're drifting that way. Certain people stop skating with me or stop doing certain things because they're going to go do that, and like I said, I can't really pinpoint exactly what started everything, but I just know it got really bad to where I didn't want to live anymore at one point.
Right.
And I didn't want to talk to anybody about it either. I just didn't trust therapists. I didn't trust anything. So.
I was going to say, was that a question of you? Obviously, like you said, it's the trust, but like there's an element of like, again, like you didn't want to make yourself feel vulnerable to anybody by like, or did you not want to like burden anybody as well? Where it's just like, oh, I don't want to bother my parents with this or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they would ask me how I was doing, and I just respond with, I'm all right.
I'm
cool.
I'm okay. Right.
Yeah, I'm okay. And then, my behavior or my schoolwork would say otherwise.
Right.
But
I'm sure they felt the way that they felt too. I'm sure they felt very desperate and helpless.
Yeah.
Because you weren't giving them anything, and they didn't know what to do, and
they were concerned when a few times when I'd show up and a cop would drop me off at home, and they were concerned when they would see kind of what I was listening to or kind of how I was acting, and I guess it was when in junior year I stopped caring. Like I was sitting in chemistry. I remember it was like first day of junior year, and I didn't like the teacher off the bat. And this is something I've always had an interest in too. And I knew I wasn't going to get anything out of this class because of the way they already started introducing it. And a few days in, and then a week later, it was just, I don't care. I'm not going to show up anymore. I'm going to get a different class, and I'm going to do things my way, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Independent study was becoming popular at that time too, and I figured my parents will buy it and they'll get me into it somehow. But that's kind of what my attitude was, and that's where they were getting concerned.
Sure. So it was around junior year. Would you say that's kind of where it all kind of came crashing down on you, like you said, because obviously you attempted more than once to take your own life, correct?
Yeah. It didn't happen though until I got back from the whole Utah thing that we talked about.
Sure.
But what had happened was my parents, they were pretty desperate to help out, and what they did is they ended up sending me to a program out in Utah. They thought it was going to be a different situation, but it kind of facilitated more as a rehab. I wasn't using any drugs or alcohol at the time, and
because were you straight edge or
I wasn't saying that I was yet, but it was. I already knew. I just already made that decision. I didn't want to do that stuff anymore.
Got it. Yeah, you didn't put the label, but you had already been like, well, I'm not partying, so.
Yeah, and so when I got to this place, it was the opposite of what my parents told me it was going to be like. Just getting me there was pretty traumatic.
Sure. How did they present? Because like they had one impression of how this thing was going to be. So how did they just sprung it on you, right? Like they basically dropped you off at the airport. Is that kind of?
Well, what happened was I was surprised at my dentist office with two escorts who self-claimed that they were track all-star guys that if I tried to run, they would get me. And so I was, detained by them, driven to the airport. And then when we went through airport security, I tried to run. And then I was detained by airport security and had to do a full search of everything. And I had to get on the next flight out instead. But that put me on a restriction when I got to Utah at the facility that I was on this, I had to be kept inside for a minimum of 2 weeks because I had a running.
You were going to run, sure.
Yeah. So.
And but you didn't. Your parents didn't like front load you at all, being like, "Hey, this is going to happen." Like once they did detain you, like on the drive over, or whatever.
Like. Well, when they showed up, they introduced me to the guys as I thought were people that worked with my dad or for his company, and
got it.
They told me, you're going to Utah today. My mom just said, I'm so sorry. My dad was like, we tried everything, and you just, we're worried about you, and we think this is going to be for the best. It's not going to be that long. It's just going to be for a few months. And we looked into this place. It's really good. And at that point, I was really adamant about becoming a professional skateboarder, and I'd been focusing a lot on it and spending most of my time just working on stuff and trying my best to just land all the stuff I've always been afraid to do.
Sure.
During that time, so I just said, am I going to be able to skate out there? And so I was stripped of like everything I'd been doing, and I was out there for a few months, and it turned out to be just the craziest situation. It was like almost Clockwork Orange, like Kubrick, just the strangest thing. And I went through a lot of crazy shit out there, and there was a lot of malpractice going on. I was being diagnosed with stuff, and they were switching up medications that I was on and telling me that I had this disorder, you're this, you're that. If you start seeing things at night, don't be worried. It's just the medication, scary, trying to scare me. So
right. And this was all under the guise of like a rehab center, or like what was the kind of the general premise of what they were trying to accomplish? Just like simply condition you?
They're trying to pretty much. It was like a behavioral center,
therapy or whatever. Yeah.
But I was going to like 3 sessions of therapy a day, and I was being, it was so, I can't even describe it to this day. Sometimes I can't find the words for it, but it's the way they were doing things. You just can't do that to people. And it's a lockdown facility, and they're only allowed to have those, I think, in Utah. So it was sorry.
No, it's boring.
The wind is all. I'm like cold out here.
It's okay.
I'm
it's
never
okay.
cold. But
Yeah. No, you're reliving traumatic memories that obviously cause your body to react a certain way. I totally get it.
Oh yeah, totally. What happened was I was taking all these meds. The food they made was awful. I was making myself peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every single meal or cereal, and it just got so bad to where I got assaulted one night by my roommate, and I fought him off. I broke into my therapist's office after setting off the place's alarm from breaking my rule, or from opening the door to my room.
Sure.
I set off an alarm. I went in, broke into my therapist's office, called my parents, told them what was really going on, and my dad said I had no idea we're coming out there. And they got me and brought me home after that. But
how long were you there for?
It's like 2 months.
Jeez.
But it wasn't compared to a lot of people who have gone. I always feel bad because I'm like, I've heard so-and-so has been there for a year and a half or went a lot longer. 2 months, that's nothing. But every day felt like it was like a week long.
Well, yeah. And plus, it's your experience.
Yeah,
like you can
totally.
compare everything else, and it's like, well, yeah. I mean, of course, like, oh, you weren't in Nazi internment. Like, yeah, like there's probably someone that's experiencing something worse, but it still was so.
I feel like it's the same degree of something that someone else is feeling too. I mean,
Right.
But
So it's not
different experience.
Definitely. I mean, it sounds like a weird combination of like prison therapy. Like there was like just it sounded atrocious and awful.
And I know that some people there were used to that lifestyle, or that they've been in similar situations where they weren't getting the same. They weren't feeling the same thing I was, but I was being treated differently by the staff. They were out to get me at certain points, and I knew it wasn't just the paranoia from the medication either. It was clearly hearing something and catching them trying to plot something that I would act out, because I told myself first day I sat down in the office, the admissions office, I said, I'm doing everything I can to get out of here as fast as I can, and I'm not going to act up. I'm going to be on my best behavior. I'm going to prove that I can get out of here. And I also thought my parents were just trying to scare me. I thought that this was just going to be like a wake-up call. But
sure.
It turned out to actually be a longer stay.
Right.
And, 2 days after, the room I was supposed to move into, someone killed themselves in the shower. And
Jeez.
I had to move into that room a few days later. So I was already just, what is this place?
Of course.
What's going on? I didn't understand it the entire time I was there. And
did you find any? I mean, obviously, retroactively looking at that, I know it would probably be impossible for you to answer, but just like the trajectory of your life, like if you didn't get sent to this place, like how you could have potentially rebounded. Like I'm sure there's so many thoughts rolling around your head on like how you could have gone if you didn't go to this place.
I used to do that. Like I used to think that it was actually a constant thought after I got home. And after, I tried to kill myself twice, and then it kept coming up even earlier last year in 2015. And, because I felt like that this was just never going to stop bugging me. I thought that this hit me at a time where my mind was still developing to where it was just always going to affect me.
Right.
But I don't think like that anymore. I haven't thought about it in a painful way in a long time, and the last time I talked to you about this, I've started remembering things I never thought about since I was there.
Sure.
I felt like I was starting to disassociate from the conversation, and that's when I was I was just kind of, oh my God, like that stuff really happened.
Totally.
And
it was like an out of body sort of
totally,
like
yeah.
you were watching yourself speak, but not
Yeah.
really comprehend what you were kind of putting out there.
Yeah, totally.
It was like stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
We all agree that reducing carbon emissions is a good thing. And once again, Toyota is leading the way. We hear a lot about fully electric vehicles, and Toyota has them, with more on the way. But we also know a BEV is not for everyone, whether it's because of cost, range, or concern about finding a charging station when you need it.
Plus, the raw materials used to manufacture batteries are limited. Enter Beyond Zero, Toyota's vision for a carbon-neutral future, in vehicles and in manufacturing plants, too, in the years ahead. The materials used to make just one long-range battery for an EV could be used to make batteries for 6 plug-in hybrids or 90 gas-electric hybrids. That's why Toyota's position today is electrified diversified, empowering you to choose how to reduce your own carbon footprint with the vehicle that's right for you. A hybrid, plug-in hybrid, or battery EV. So shop, learn more, and get details at toyota.com/beyond zero. Toyota, let's go places.
Hello there, this is Malcolm Gladwell, host of Revisionist History. eBay Motors is here for the ride. You saw the potential. Through some elbow grease, fresh installs, and a whole lot of love, you transformed 100,000 miles and a body full of rust into a drive entirely its own. Look to your left, look to your right. No one's got a ride like this. There's nothing else that sounds like, feels like, or looks like the set of wheels in your garage. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly so there's no limit to how far you can take it. Brake kits, turbochargers, engines, exhaust kits, roof racks, LED headlights, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
When you get a new car or a new home, your first reaction might be to say things like, "Oh yeah," or "I can't believe it," or "Booyah." But what you really want to say is the one thing that can get you the help you need. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. State Farm is there with coverage you need for your car, your home, and even boats, motorcycles, RVs, and other things that matter to you. With a State Farm agent, you know someone is there to help you choose the coverage you need. With so many coverage options, it feels good knowing you can find what fits for you. And when you need ways to get help, State Farm gives you options there too. In person or on the phone, with your local agent, or on statefarm.com, or their award-winning app. State Farm lets you do things your way. So, when you need help protecting the things that matter most, remember to say, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
You obviously were able to, like you said, sort of retroactively shed the negative experience that is that, and just be like, well, I'm living in the here and now, and I'm obviously moving on from that depression. I mean, and I know that was like a recent mental shift in yours, but before we move into that, the idea that, like, you know, the biggest thing, like putting myself in your shoes, the most difficult thing or emotions that I would probably be going through is like the sense of, you know, betrayal from like your family that you would feel, because like they might have had good intentions, but then, you know, you don't have the clarity about that.
There were times where I definitely thought that. When I came home, I'd been home for a few days, and it was great being around my family and everything, but my mind was in such a shift with medication and just different realities, switching back to Southern California life from Utah life, and I started getting these paranoid thoughts, just they don't really care, you know, like how could they send me there and now just pretend everything's all smiles and great. And I also thought, like, they'll never know what they did to me, you know, just certain things I hated my parents for a minute, and now I understand. I mean, I feel like, because I have friends that are parents now, I'm not near that point. I don't know if I ever will be, who knows, but I just see it now, and I'm like, I'd probably do the same thing or something similar if I had a kid that was that close to maybe killing themselves or being so reckless that something bad, an accident would have happened, or just the people he was hanging out with. That I would have made that decision myself probably if I could. But
sure.
I understand where they're coming from, because now I've had such a great relationship with them since I've been home, and they've seen me kind of struggle and getting back and starting life over almost.
Sure.
So, the betrayal thing existed for a minute, but
yeah, understandably so. It's an emotion that you obviously have to work through, where it's like something that can be present because that's what you felt, but then, like you said, once you have perspective on it, and so there was that haze after you came home of kind of like, I'm sure at that point you even felt more hopeless than what you were entering or was there an element of like, I just thank God I'm out?
For a little bit, it was strange because after I got out, I went to Snowbird up in Salt Lake, or Park City, I think it is up there. And I met Kathleen O'Hara from Home Alone, Saturday Night Live.
Right.
Beetlejuice. And she was so kind and nice and everything. And she asked me why I was up there, and I hesitated and just said I was on vacation with family. But I met her up there. That gave me like, oh man, like that's wild, and I felt a little better after that. But like, I just remember right after that moment, I started thinking about everything I just lived through. And the next few days were just so, like, I guess you could say they were bleak. I guess you could say they were black and white, but nothing mattered. And that's when I just said, I can't do this. I can't live
You
anymore.
can't deal with this anymore.
And I tried to kill myself.
Sure.
And that was just, it was an actual, attempt at it where I thought I'd tried or wanted to before or thought about it. It was a full-on, I'm doing this, and it was unsuccessful. And
how did you attempt to kill yourself?
I tried to hang myself in my garage.
Sure.
And it left a mark around my neck for a few weeks. And it was, something broke. I don't know. I must have passed out during it. But
sure. I was about to say, did the rope fail and then someone no one discovered you?
No, I woke up about 4 a.m. My jaw was hurting. I think I smashed my face on the ground when I came down, but I came to, and I was like, I kind of said, what the fuck am I doing? Kind of laughed it off, woke up, looked in the mirror. I was sore. It was tough to, I was just, how am I going to hide this? So
sure.
Wearing collared shirts, which I never would wear, and then I was using concealer for a few weeks, and then I got bummed out again looking at myself that I'd done that, and I tried to kill myself again differently. I don't really want to talk about that one.
No problem.
Didn't work out, so it's all good. Trying to lighten it up.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah. But yeah, you were, there does, because my brother-in-law he's attempted to commit suicide more than once, and there is that a pattern that you just don't think about until you're confronted with it, of the disgust that one person feels when they're just like, oh, I can't even fucking do this right. Like, I can't even kill, like, how horrible of a human being if I can't even kill myself. Like, I need to do this again or whatever.
There was a thought like that, but there was also, I thought about my brother and my sister and how that would affect them. I thought about my parents and how I also thought about certain friends that had relied on me, and I don't know, like, that kind of fought back all of that for a bit. And it's come back a few times, that thought, but I don't know. I'm certain now that I'll never do that again.
Right.
And only certain as of last year, but it's...
Well, and that's a perfect segue into the when you and I hung out when we were in Arizona when you were playing that show, and how like you expressed to me a lot of the feelings that you were having in regards to like true and actual happiness. Like, it was just so for a person that's never been plagued with depression, but like my wife has suffered through it, my mother-in-law, I'm privy to the feelings that people go through. What you were expressing to me was so like it was so basic, but yet so unbelievably like inspiring, because it was just like, oh, like making the decision to be happy. Like,
yeah,
that hurdle so many people can't jump across. Like, tell me how you kind of were able to use that and be able to like make that decision.
It's funny because it's right there. Like, that's how I've always, for me at least, it was always right there in front of me, and it was common sense to where I started thinking, I was like, I can take all the medications in the world, I can talk to all the doctors, I can read all the books, and I can, listen to things that are inspirational, but like, you have to make the choice yourself. I kind of compared it to, if I need to learn something, if I need to memorize something, I need to practice. Practice makes perfect. 10,000 hours into anything, that kind of philosophy. So I need to practice being happy. I need to practice being positive and cutting off that bad part and just saying, when it would resurface, it was like catching yourself. It would start resurfacing. It's just like, no, fuck this. I don't have time for this. I'm not giving into that thought or that feeling. I was told I'm bipolar by some doctors, over the past few years. I started buying into it and creating a comfort zone out of it. And so what I did was just used it as an excuse for my actions or the way I'd feel. And I'd start sinking into these moods that you just can't pull yourself out of. And one thought, it's like, oh, I screwed up on this because I'm a failure at this. I can't do this right, or this, and this. You start thinking about all the times you've ever failed, and that's what would bring me down. And when that chain reaction of thought would start happening, I just start cutting it off, just saying, no, there's too many good things going on about you and too many good things that you have waiting and potential for to go off on that thought process. And
right.
It was something that it was like, oh, what's more comforting, just to come home from work after a long day where you've been defeated or felt defeated by things, or if something happened during the day that was awful. It's easier to just go sulk about it, and it's easier to just sit there and kind of let yourself feel bad about it. I mean, for me, I was too comfortable with that, and I just had to cut that out to where I said, no, I'm going to pull myself up right now and go for a run. I'm going to go work out right now. I'm going to go skate. I'm going to call a friend, go meet up, talk about it. And when you do any of those things, it always puts you in better spirits. It always puts you in a better mood. And so I started practicing this, breaking that habit, what I used to do. It's like I can easily just go grab food right now and go sit and watch movies for the next 8 hours and forget about everything. Or I could just go and actually do something productive and
Sure.
make something worth my time and put that energy somewhere else.
I really like the way that you put that, because I think the notion of practice, like, there are so many when you are in a certain mindset, it is a decision, like, and whether or not you're accepting it as a decision, it is a decision. Yeah. Like, you're waking up and, like, you don't have any reason to be like, oh, well, I'm immediately going to be in a bad mood. Like, that is a decision. And like you said, the ways that you have to fight off your own instincts of being like, well, no, like, I can't listen to that. Yeah. I just really like that concept of practicing a mood,
It is, it really is, and it works, because if it works that way, it has to work with everything else that's in your mind.
Yeah.
And it really does. Like, I haven't been on medication now for 6 years. And I was taking a mood stabilizer, and the side effects were just too intense, so I quit it. And I have had crazy mood swings for the last few years. And when I decided to finally, in June, even last year, I woke up one morning and I was like, now I am serious. I can't live anymore. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to do it. And it was the most I guess it was the most preparation I've ever put into actually going through with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of said, are you fucking kidding me? I'm how old now and I'm still like this? I remember there was a point in my life where I wasn't like this. I can get back to that.
Right.
I have to. And so it was early in the morning. I turned everything around, stopped everything I was doing, threw away whatever note I was writing, and I went down to my gym at my apartment, and I said, I'm just going to work out until I feel better. And I just said that I'm going to do this every morning until however long it takes for me to be happy again.
Sure.
And then I also had this delusion that it was, you're going to be happy one day, or it's impossible to be happy one day, I'm saying it wrong. I guess it was, I was looking for constant happiness.
Oh, sure, that there was no, there's no fluctuation of that. It's like I need to be happy or else I'm failing.
Yeah, and I put things into reality and said that that's not realistic. Life is about, it's about that ups and downs, and it's just trying to find the balance between them and taking things realistically. If I lose my job tomorrow, I don't have to die. I don't have to end my life because of it. You never know what's going to happen. And if you have friends, if you have things you enjoy in your life, you'll come back. I guess, resilience has to be a pattern, when you face these things, because you can come back.
Right.
Those things aren't killing you.
Right.
You can do the whole thing where it's like someone else out there in the world has it way worse, but you're not seeing it from that perspective because you're not there with them. So I try to block that thought process out, and where it's like, no, I can only control myself, and I can offer help to them once I'm better. But that's where I'm at, where I found that balance now. I'm naturally balanced to where I don't have to take any medication. I don't get sad like I used to, and either it's just me growing up and growing out of it, but I think it's actually because I started putting practice into it. I'm not negative as I was. I don't buy into a lot of the negativity that's, surrounding, the music, the community you and I are both involved in. I just don't fall for those traps anymore. It's just, it's nice.
It's nice. You made a decision, and that's the way that you pointed yourself, as opposed to like, so many people don't make that conscious decision, and you feel like a ping pong ball, you feel like you're just kind of like, oh, I'm on this side today, I'm on the other side today, and it's like, well, no, like just maybe put the ball down, and then I can hopefully make that decision to where I'm in control of my own emotions, and everything else that circles around me I can't control, but I can control my emotions.
Yeah, and it's ultimately destroying that comfort zone to where you think, because I used to identify with it. I used to identify and, kind of own up to it and say, yeah, I'm just this depressed person who hates everything and hates everyone, etc. And if I lose that, I don't have anything. And what if I lose that? I won't be as creative with whatever I'm doing, and it's not even that at all. I can still look back and see everything the way it was, and I can return to those feelings, but I see it differently now with a new perspective, more focused and sharp one. I kind of compare depression and everything that I've been dealing with to this dirty screen that I've removed from my brain, to where now I'm able to feel things the way they're supposed to be felt. I'm supposed to enjoy this. I'm supposed to be this sad about something instead of hitting ultimate lows and ridiculous manic highs that I would fall into sometimes. And
it's like a filter you've removed.
Yeah, and
it's like I don't need to look at the world like that.
And I started comparing that to school and how I would receive information too, because once I did that, I noticed that I'm able to pick things up a lot faster. I'm able to not analyze things the way I would, or say, what's the point to this? It's more, I want more of this. What is this? I mean, I started this thing too, where every year now, I started it, it's been like 11 days now, but since the new year, but where I'm going to learn a language, the basics of a language, or how much I can, and an instrument every year.
Okay.
And do it together simultaneously, to where I can start it's like just an extra thing I can add on to keep myself busy and
engaged.
I don't really need to distract anything anymore, but it's just I'm finding these new interests, and I think it's because I removed that depression, because I never was this motivated or this kind of in touch with humanity before that, so.
You're like, wow, there's all these cool things out there.
Yeah.
all these bright new shiny objects that I can play with.
Exactly. I feel like I got a second chance, or that I'm like experiencing it, and I've been trying to find a way to talk about it so it doesn't come off as corny or cheesy in a way.
Like you're born again and you found yourself. It's like you're not going on the Julia Roberts Eat, Pray, Love like journey. I understand. There's a lot of cliches about that, but I mean, there's a reality behind that, and that's like what you're experiencing. Like you said, it's like you can actually see things for what they are, as opposed to like you said, just through this weird filter.
And it's also, I'm able to convey certain emotions where it's not so aimless, and it's not, it's now if I have something that's angering me and I need to write about it, it's more focused and it's not as out of control and
chaotic. Yeah.
Temporary, I guess you can say.
Oh,
It's
sure.
more of a, I guess, intelligent way of being able to express myself. I've been able to not embarrass myself. I'm not sure how I'm trying to say it, but it's now that I've like removed that, I'm seeing things the way they should be and how they really are,
right?
Opposed to how I want things to be. So
Sure.
It's just
because when you're, I can understand what you're saying. Where it's like when you're in an emotion, you tend to write about it, especially from like a lyrical perspective, very melodramatically,
and
like
you vent in a just very chaotic way.
Yeah. And there's no focus at it because you're not, like you said, looking at the emotion for what it actually is. But then when you're able to have that perspective, that's when you're able to be like, oh, I can write 2 sentences about that as opposed to like 17 pages of gibberish. Like,
yeah, and there's something my bipolar will switch off and I won't feel that way tomorrow.
Right.
And
yeah, you're like, this doesn't represent me as a human being at all.
That's what was happening, and so now it's more, I'm just able to be more focused, I guess you could say. I'm just able to actually just do things and turn it in, I guess, to life.
Yeah. You're like, I'm
okay,
able to
here it
show
is.
up here, right?
Okay, here's the final draft. I don't have to,
Right.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to hit on was because obviously you have been able to filter all these feelings to Seizures, the band you play in, and just the idea of, because you guys are a very hardworking band for obviously how involved you all are with jobs and other things that obviously the real life stuff gets in the way. Is it one of those things where it's like, do you feel the band is kind of a necessity for you personally, or is it one of those things where it's just like, no, it's just simply a very fun activity for me to do? Like, where does that kind of sit in your head?
It's definitely a necessity. It's my main outlet, I guess I'd say now, because I don't skate the way I used to. I still skate, but I'm not going down rails as much.
Right, not doing 10 stairs.
Not even, my knees won't take it anymore. But it's my friends, my best friends and I creating a soundtrack pretty much to our lives, and we're trying to write the best music we can and push ourselves, and we're doing something that I feel like we're trying to create something unique and uninfluenced by anything but our emotions, to where it's like, this is like a huge project that I don't feel like you can put an end to it. We've talked about it before, where there's just, we're limitless now, to where this is something we really have to do.
Right.
And we're always thinking about it and how we can make it different and how we can add to it. And
it sounds
my favorite thing.
Sounds very driven.
Yeah.
Like purpose driven, as opposed to the notion of like, oh, we can make this as a band.
There's just, I've always said, it's just making music we've always wanted to hear. And it's like, there's music similar to it out there, but there's things we need to add to it where it hasn't existed before for us, or that we haven't heard yet. And that's where it comes together, where we're constantly sitting down to where there's never been a point where we've been stumped by something where it's just, we can't do that because of this. We're open to everything about it, and that's what's so interesting about it, because we keep growing up together, and it's been the same lineup for 5 years now, but we've all been friends for a lot longer than that, and just the fact that we can use this as our outlet and go travel together and make this, this art together. I mean, I hate trying to sound like as an artist or
as a musician. I understand.
It's more just us fucking around most of the time, but when we really do work on things and we do stick to it, we're just, it's cool to just look over and be like, we've been doing this for so long. This is so fucking cool. And
right.
At the same time, we've been completely true to ourselves and doing it for ourselves, and it's just cool that other people have paid attention and that, I guess, have liked to come and watch it.
Right, yeah. You're like, that's all we can ask for. It's like, if other people are along for the ride, that's awesome. We'd still be doing it regardless, but...
Exactly, yeah.
Well, Cameron, I love you. I really appreciate you doing this, because I know it wasn't easy for you, but...
Love you too. It was a lot better this time, obviously.
Well, that's good. That's what the first one was a dress rehearsal, and then now you've cleared the decks. And no, I mean, I really appreciate you in all sincerity, because I think the way that you not only approach the hard times that you had, but the way that you describe it and the way that you obviously describe how you got out of it, I just think it's very applicable to many people's situations, regardless of how quote unquote far gone they are, you know? So I think it was very important for me to obviously have you on for this particular reason, but then obviously for you to obviously get it off your chest and be able to put it out there in a more public forum. So
of course. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So there we go. That was Cameron. I'm still recording this in my car as I drive home. I trust me. I'm being safe. I'm being responsible. I'm holding this at a safe distance away from my mouth. I am not being distracted. Well, I guess I technically am by talking to you. But thank you very much, like I said at the beginning of the show, to Cameron. It was great for him to hear his story, and hopefully it provides you some, comfort, solace, something. Because I know many people that get drawn to all of the stuff that we enjoy sometimes have trauma that they carry around and suffer from depression. I know my whole family, my wife, my mother, a lot of other people that I am close with suffer from that and are either medicated or not medicated. And it's a total struggle, and I absolutely get it. And hearing Cameron's story was great because obviously it's a success story, but it's something that it really embodies how amazing the human spirit is. So thank you, Cameron. That's all I got to say. Thank you very much for listening, and I apologize for the somewhat frantic nature in these intro and outros, but like I said, I really wanted to capture this moment, and hopefully, it'll resonate with you in some capacity. So, until next week, I'm not going to tease the guests because, frankly, I don't want to look at my phone and get in a real accident. So, anyways, until next week, please be safe, everybody.
You've been listening to the Jabberjaw Podcast Network, jabberjawmedia.com. Shh.
This episode is brought to you by Toyota. Toyota is a leader when it comes to electrified vehicles. Today, battery EVs make up less than 10% of new vehicles sold because of higher cost and concerns about range and charging. Enter Beyond Zero, Toyota's vision for a carbon-neutral future. With an electrified, diversified lineup of hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and battery EVs, Toyota empowers you to choose how to reduce your own carbon footprint. Learn more and get details at toyota.com/beyond0. Toyota, let's go places.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Have you heard about Vyvgart, F-Gard Tegamod Alpha F-Cab? Ask your neurologist if Vyvgart could be right for you and learn more at Vyvgart.com/learn. That's VYVGART.com/learn. Brought to you by argenx.